So Zaporizhzhia, you've heard of this. This is where the counteroffensive is going on. I'm not looking at the deep state map. I'm looking at Google Maps. And all of this part of the map, on the southern part of the map, on the bottom of the map where my mouse is in occupied territory. So if I zoom in just to where I'm here, this is the Zaporizhzhia power plant right here. And if I change the layer there, you can see that's what it looks like. So on the left-hand side, so on the western side of the power plant, you can see this big, looks like almost like a mini little harbor. You know, sometimes a harbor looks like that. But what this is the cooling pond for all of the used nuclear spent fuel rods. So this is the actual power plant itself. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 generators that they have there. So it's said that Zelensky has come out and said that the Russians have mined the power plant itself. So what they're saying, so let me just give you the link so you can see that there. Zelensky says Russia is planning to sabotage the power plant. And just a couple of months ago, the IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, were in there and they said that this was not mined. The outside area of it was mined. And they create minefields around these types of infrastructure there from a defensive position to make it really hard to assault those positions. Because it's a big area, there's no way that the military can cover all of these approaches. So what they do is they create minefields to stop the enemy advancing in those areas. So that's what the power plant looks like. That's where it's located. And if I just pull the map out a little bit further, you'll be able to see that the dam, the Kakhovka Dam, is just further upstream from where we are here. So if I kill the screen share there, and I've just got another video I want to share with you here, which really shows you exactly what's happened. And it's pretty quick before and after. So let me just play it again because you might have missed it. So that's the before. I'll pause it. That's what the cooling pond looked like before the dam blew, which is what Google Maps is showing us. And now that's what it looks like after. So it's quite different to what you can see. So there's now no more way for the water to get inside of that cooling pond. So they've said, the IAEA said that there's probably a month worth of water in there because the the water evaporates because the fuel rods are hot. So there's natural evaporation that actually happens. And the cooling pond was continuously replenished from the river. But since there's no more water there to replenish that, that's now a problem. So what Zelensky is saying is that there's a potential for the Russians to sabotage this to create a massive nuclear disaster. All they would need to do is to blow the actual outside of that cooling pond. When you look at it, when you look at some other photos of it, it's not very big. It looks like a big place on the map, and it is a big area, but the pond that surrounds it is not very big. And it wouldn't take a lot to actually create a nuclear emergency. And I'm not saying a disaster, but an emergency. If they got rid of some of the top of the dam, I suppose, or the barrier that's holding the water in that cooling pond, and just let some of the water out to let some of the cooling rods to be exposed, then it would create a chain reaction that would cause all sorts of problems. So Zelensky's trying to get ahead of this because he's come out and said, hey, we've got new intelligence that shows the Russians actually blew the dam. There's drone footage going around of a car that's been parked on the Russian side of the dam, and it's full of explosives. And it's like, even if you put 10,000 kilos of explosive there, you're not going to blow up that dam. You're just not. The way explosives blow up, not down, and you're not going to blow the dam out. But they said that was part of the actual process of destroying the dam, and there's the smoking gun they're pointing at it, right? And it's like a car packed full of explosives, and you're like, dude, I can't even see the explosives. All I can see is the top of a car from a drone. And you want me to believe it? Like, I don't believe anything that you're saying. And now Zelensky's coming out and saying that the only way that the Russians can win this war is by creating an everlasting stalemate with a nuclear disaster. But I don't know, man. The boy that cried wolf, I just don't believe the guy. I don't believe him because the opposite would be true as well. If the Ukrainians went there and created a nuclear disaster, the Russians go, oh, well, we better stop while we fix that because that's going to affect us too. So the Russians benefit from it. So do the Ukrainians. So when you look at something like this, you say, well, who stands to benefit the most? that's the natural question to ask. Well, are the Russians going to benefit? Yes, they are, because they get to hold the ground that they've already got. Do the Ukrainians benefit? Yes, they do, because even though the Russians are holding the ground, they're not depleting their forces or their troops anymore, and it gives them an opportunity to reconstitute their forces and then go get rid of the Russians properly. But at what expense? At what price? A nuclear catastrophe? And if something really does go wrong there, and if you look at if you look at what's actually happened with the river and there's no more water there, it is a serious thing, and it's a serious possibility. And if there's only a month worth of water that can be in that cooling pond there, then what happens in a month's time, or in 2 months' time, or in 6 months' time? Is that cooling pond going to turn into a nuclear disaster? Or is that going to be something that is handled and managed at scale by the people that are looking after it? The thing that's come out and contradicted Zelensky is the International Atomic Energy Agency said the Russians didn't mine the cooling pond. They didn't. So whatever intelligence that you've got, that's not what we saw when we were on the ground. But then the Ukrainians go, oh, that's new intelligence. I'm like, I'm such a hard time believing anything any of these people say anymore, man. I just don't. All I see is catastrophe after catastrophe, disaster after disaster. And I look at my Telegram channel every day I was trying to figure out what I was feeling yesterday as I was looking at it. And I'm looking, are there any stories there? Is anything worth reporting on? And when I saw this with Zelensky, this has been around for a couple of days now. It's probably 4 or 5 days now. And I thought we should probably talk about this because it could be the biggest man-made disaster in human history if something goes wrong. It really could be. And Zelensky's trying to get ahead of it, saying that it's not us. We're not doing it. And I was trying to figure out how I felt about all of that. And after I'd finished, I stopped what I was doing and I started making dinner. I was making dinner and I was thinking, the feeling that I have is one of despair. And think about that. When was the last time you felt despair in your life? And I'm thinking, what does despair mean? It feels like hopeless, like I can't do anything. And these idiotic people are in charge, causing all of this misery onto the world, and they're elected. And then when they get elected, they claim to be good people trying to do the right thing, but they don't. All they do is create misery and despair and no hope for humanity. And my goodness, I hope, and I don't like to hope for anything because hope is not a strategy, right? You've got to take action to control your life and the things that you can control. But gosh, there's no chance that I can control anything to do with the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, for heaven's sake. So all I've got is hope. I hope that these idiots actually can work it out and it doesn't destroy that part of the world permanently with a nuclear disaster. It's just horrendous. Ed, I've been talking a bit there. What do you think, man?
Do you happen to know whether any of the landmines are stamped with made by BlackRock on them, or
all jokes aside, man, you got to wonder, eh? Like that's almost not funny because they're the ones that stand to gain the most from these disasters. Not the Ukrainians, not the Russians, but those scumbags.
That's right. This is a money laundering operation. This whole war.
Just blow the dam, man. That'll cost $10 billion to build. We'll charge them 12. Yeah. I mean, we'll be there for the next 20 years rebuilding that dam. Yeah.
There you go. I mean, that's the lens that I filter all of my Ukraine-Russia war news through. Who is benefiting from this?
BlackRock and BRICS.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, I do not buy that Russia would want to damage that site for a couple of reasons. First of all, the prevailing winds in that part of the country go from west to east. Mm-hmm. So if
it'll all blow over Russia, not over Europe.
Right. That's right. So that's one reason. Another reason is, that's a valuable source of energy for them. If they have designs of taking over Ukraine someday, they're going to want that sucker to be intact.
They'll need it.
Yeah, they're going to need. So I don't. I mean, what do I know? But this, in my own layman's way of thinking about it, I don't think. I think Russia would not have an interest in destroying. Who is in control of that site at the moment? Is it Russia or is it?
Yeah, the Russians are in control of it.
Yeah. So I don't know why they would have designs on damaging it. the Ukrainian troops are right over the hill. We better blow this guy on our way out of town. I just don't see that.
It's strategically important, right? Because before the IAEA went in there at the start of the year or end of last year, whatever it was, the Russians